Okay, year 10. This is lesson 5 of algebra. Okay, so for algebra, we have learned that when we do expanding, or what we call expansion of a binomial, we multiply the number into the bracket or multiply the terms outside the bracket into it using the what we call distributive law. Okay, so that's the process of what we call expanding. All right. So, but in year 9, you should have learned that we can go from the other side. If I give you the expanded form on the right hand side, can you go back to the left hand side, which is what we call factorizing? Okay, so for example, from 2x plus 2y, if you go back to 2 times bracket x plus y, that's what we call factorizing or factorization. Okay, and of course, factorization would be more difficult than expanding. Okay, because the number you taking out here, the number you're taking out here, also here, is what we call HCF of the two terms. HCF, highest common factor, right? The highest common factor of 2x and 2y. Here, 3RS is the highest common factor of 6RS squared minus 15RS. You need to find the highest common factor. Then you take that out and and you divide that HF by each term, and you leave behind the things after the divisions. Okay, inside the bracket. So that's what we call factorization, if you remember. Okay, so the first thing we need to review is how could we find the highest common factor given two terms. Okay, to find the highest common factor, you need to write the terms into their expanded form. Okay, for example, 10x. Okay, how about 10? We know that 10 could be written as 2 times 5. Okay, x. Remember, you need to write the numbers into all the prime factors. Okay, you are not going to write 1 times 10 because 1 and 10 are not prime factors, right? Okay, and how about 5x? So 5x is only 5 times x squared. Okay, then you compare, do we have any common factor in terms of, yes, we got 5, okay, and also another one, you got x, and here x. All right, so then the HCF would be the common factor 5 and the common factor x. Okay, for x, there's x squared, and x always you take the lowest power. So that would be x. All right, so that's the first one. How about the second one? Okay, so for the second one, 2ab, you can't do anything to simplify further, right? 6a squared b. Okay, for this one, 6 can be rewritten as 2 times 3 because these are two prime factors of 6. All right, and times a squared times b. Okay, so let's compare. Both of them have 2, so 2 is a common factor. Both of them got a, so a is a common factor. And both of them have b, so b is a common factor, right? So HCF is what we call 2a. Okay, for a, that's a and a squared. Always take the lowest power, so the lowest power will be a to power 1, so that's why it's a and b. All right. Okay, so how about the third one? Okay, for this one, okay, 2x cube, there's nothing you could do. Just write this one. And 4x squared. Okay, for 4x squared, remember 4 can be written as 2 times 2, right? So we prefer 2 squared times x squared, right? Okay. And how about this one? Can we find the HCF? All right. Okay, so HCF. So what's your answer for this one? Right, 2 and 2. Okay, so both of them had 2. So 2 is the answer, right? And the other is 2 squared, but we take the lowest power. And how about that x? Of course, x is the common factor, but one is x cubed, the other is x squared. So we always take the lowest power. So cube and 2. Let's take 2. Okay, so the HCF is 2x squared. Okay, so let's see the last one. Okay, the last one is axy and minus 18x squared z. Okay, so I'm going to give you a bit of time. You could try to do the answer by yourself. Use a pen and a piece of paper. Try to do it. All right, I'm going to give you some time. Okay, so coming back. Okay, so HCF. So if you break the two terms into their expanded form, a is 2 to the power 3 x times y, right? The next one is 2 times 3 squared times x times z. Okay, so when you compare the common factor, you got 2, and also you got x, so basically it's 2x. Okay, so you track the power as well. Okay, the lowest power for both 2 and x are 1, so that's HCF is 2x. Okay, so some students has told me that it's difficult for them to break number like 18 into their expanded prime expanded prime factors form. Okay, so let me show you how to use your calculator to help you. All right, so I use this calculator as an example. So that's a very interesting function we call the function of, okay, we use this function FACT. So that function actually comes from the factorize. Okay, so could you find FACT from this calculator if you are using this one? Okay, so should be here. Sorry about it's quite blurred right here. Okay, I try to magnify it a little bit. Okay, it's about here. Sorry, so the photo is not the clearest. Okay, it's around here. So on top of that circle and 3 commas, right? Okay, so if you see it, because this is above that this button, so you need to press shift first. Okay, and before you press shift, you need to get 18. You need to input 18, right? So suppose I input 18 here, right? I input 18 here, right? So you see 18, and then I press this equal sign. After I press this equal sign, so that 18 will be gone. Okay, so the number becomes here. Okay, so you see 18 is right here. Okay, then you press that shift. Okay, after you press that shift, you press this one. Okay, so basically you input 18. Okay, let's write the whole process. You put 18, press equal sign, and then you press that shift. Okay, and then you press this one. Okay, then what are you going to see? You are going to see on the screen, you will see something like, okay, look, 2 times 3 squared. Okay, so is it the expanded prime factor form for 18? Yes. Okay, so that means 18 equal to 2 times 3 squared. So next time if you have some large integers which is a composite number, but you are not quite sure about how could we find the expand the prime factor form, you could use your calculator to help. Alright? Okay, so that's it for us to find HCF. The purpose for us to find HCF, remember that, is to help us to find the HCF. To find the HCF is a crucial step for us to do the factorizing. Alright? Okay, to complete factorization, there are a few steps you need to know. Okay, the first one, you need to write the terms into their expanded form. Okay, so expanded form means if you got 12x squared, you need to rewrite that 12x squared into 2 squared times 3. Okay, remember you could use your calculator, the fact function, for you to expand that 12 times x squared times y. Okay, if you don't want to write the times multiplication sign, that's okay, but at least you need to write the multiplication sign between 2 squared and 3, I suppose. Okay, take out the HCF. What do we mean by take out? You need to take that HCF to the front. Okay, the so-called take out is about to the front, and then you need to add a bracket behind it. Okay, take out the HCF, that means to the front of the bracket. Okay, so what will be left behind in the bracket? You need to divide each term with the HCF and leave the remains of the terms in the bracket. Okay, right? So I'm going to show you an example. What does it mean? Okay, always be careful about the sign. I mean the positive and negative. Okay, so let's have a look about this question. First of all, let's find the HCF. All right. So to find the HCF, you need to write the expanded form, right? Okay, let's do it. 12. If you use the expanded form, it's 4 times 3 times x squared. For 18, we've just done this one, right? So it should be 2 times 3 squared. Okay, 2 times 9. 9 is 3 squared times x times y. Okay, now we need to pick up some constant terms. All right, sorry, we need to pick up some common factors. Okay, 2, all right, 3, and x, there's no y here, so y is not a common factor. For 2, the lowest power is 1. Okay, for 3, the lowest power is 3. Remember, you need to write 2 times 3, not 2, 3. Okay, times x squared, x, of course, x. Okay, so that would be your HCF. Remember that? That's your HCF. Okay, so add a pair of brackets here. Okay, so if that's minus sign, okay, remember it should be minus sign because the HCF this time you take out a positive term, right? So you keep the minus sign here. So what's here? What's in front of the minus sign? What's at the back? Okay. So the first term here should be the first term to be divided by 3x. Okay. So let's think if you are going to divide it. Okay, so what happens? So I need to write into here 2, if that's our original ones, 2 squared times 3 times x squared, right? Okay, possibly I need to make it bigger for you. Okay, then you use that to divide by the HCF 2 times 3 times x. Okay, 2 squared divided by 2. Okay, of course 2. You just reduce the power by 1. 3 divided by 3, that's 1, right? So that should be 1. Okay, x squared divided by x. How about x squared divided by x? If you remember in year 9, so you got index square here, that means x times x, right? Divided by x, that means you cancel out 1x. Or if you use the index law, you just reduce that index by 1, okay? So that means x to the power 1. We are not going to write the 1, okay? So you see, that will be your first term. Okay, so that would be what was left behind for the first term, okay? So let's rewrite this one as 2x, okay? And how about the second term? Okay, second term. Okay, the second term, originally the second term is 2 times 3 squared times x times y divided by 2 times 3 times x. Okay, let's cancel out things. Okay, you see 2 and 2, they cancel out. 3 squared and 3 reduce the power by 1, so that's 3, right? X cancel out x, and y still here, so 3y. So all you need to do is 3y. Okay, so possibly when you are still not quite familiar with the process, you need to do a little bit like divisions in the bracket. Okay, but after you getting more familiar with that sort of taking out common factor, taking out highest common factors, and then do the division, then it becomes automatic. Because every time you take out the highest common factor, you will see either that term, okay, I mean that factor is gone, or its power would be reduced by the power, okay, you've taken out, all right? Okay, so for example, you take out 2 to the power 1, then every 2 in the bracket, its power will be reduced by 1. Okay, so by observing that will help you to do it by inspection, rather than every time you need to do that division again and again. It becomes quite clumsy if you do it every time. Okay, so that's not, of course, not the final answer. We could still simplify that expression a little bit. 2 times 3 is 6, 6x, bracket 2x minus 3y. Okay, so that would be our first one. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so that's the first attempt. Okay, how about the second one? Okay, so I'm going to give you some time. You try by yourself first. Remember, here's a minus sign. Okay, okay. So that might be some variation in terms of the answer, but I really like you to try by yourself first. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video now. Okay, so coming back. All right, so first you need to expand into prime factor form. Okay, 8 is 2 to the power 3. 18 is 2 times 3 squared. Okay, so when you compare, you see that 2 is the common factor, A is another common factor, B is the third common factor, right? So when you take out HCF, okay, a bit of notice here. Oh, I make a mistake. Okay, I'm going to correct that spot right away. Okay, so I'm taking out minus. So if I'm taking out minus 2ab, so why did I take out minus 2ab rather than 2ab? If you take out 2ab, that's okay. It's not wrong, but it's just a conventional practice. That's normally if the leading term, I mean the first term, is negative, so we are going to take out negative number. Okay, so when you are taking out negative number, the first term becomes positive. How about the second term? That's the mistake I made. Okay, since the second term is negative, if as you are taking out negative HCF. Okay, so negative number divided by another negative number becomes positive. So please remember here. So you've got positive here. Congratulations, you're better than me. All right. Okay, so you need to leave that positive here. How could we get that 2 square? Because that's 2 to the power 3 and 2. When 2 is gone, what left behind is 2 square. For A, B, both gone. So for the first term, it's 2 square. For the second term, okay, 2 is gone. Okay, for 3, there's no 3 as common factor. So 3 square is still here. And how about A square? Okay, because A is gone. So when A square divided by A becomes A, right? And B divided by B becomes 1. All right, so that's why we got 3 square A. Okay, your answer need to be a bit more simplified. Okay. Okay, so that becomes this one. Okay, so the last one again. This time the leading term is negative, and the second term is positive. Let's see what we can do. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video again. You need to do that by yourself, and then you track the answer. Okay, you might pause the video. Okay, so guys, you see, when we take out that's minus 3xy, minus 3xy. Okay, so that's HCF. Y is minus, not just 3xy. Again, 3xy is not wrong, but minus 3xy is better because the leading term is negative. Okay, so after you take out that's minus 3xy, all right, and the leading term will become positive because the leading term was negative. All right, okay, so when a negative term divided by a negative HCF, it becomes positive. That makes sense, right? Second term, 21x squared y, if you divide by minus 3xy, it becomes minus 7x. Okay, because positive divided by negative becomes negative. Right, that's it. Okay, so that's all our examples about simple factorization. Okay, so you might have some practice to do here. Okay, so these are the practice in page, I think that's page 3, right? Okay, you need to do some practice, and there are answers for you to check up. Okay, yes, before you move on, you need to at least do the first column of all the questions and make sure you understand, and then you move on. Otherwise, it will be really difficult because we are going to expand our ideas of HCF and taking out common factors, things like this. We are going to expand the concept. All right. Okay. So please do try the practice before we move on. Right. Okay. Sorry, let me come back here. Right, so our second part of this video is about factorization with common binomial factors. Okay, what do we mean by binomial factors? Okay, binomial just means a unit of 2 terms. All right. Okay, so normally when we say binomial, you could imagine there's a polynomial with 2 terms. For example, x plus y, okay, x plus 2, 2x minus 1. These are binomial. Okay, so what do we mean by common binomial factors? In year 9, possibly you have solved some question like this, but not too much, right? Okay, so let me give you some examples. Okay, first, let's do a very simple factorization. 2a plus 3a. What's the HCF? 2a and 3a. Of course, it's a. Okay, factorizing. Of course, you are going to take a out of it. And 2 plus 3 becomes 5, right? Okay. Okay, so. Okay. All right. Okay, so we can do this. All right, so how about the second one? If you see 2 terms, what's the highest common factor? Okay, so you might think, Okay, I never saw this before because it's not like 2a, but if you see this x plus y, can you imagine this just like the a above, just like this a? Okay, because they are the same. They're bracket x plus y, okay, 2 times that bracket plus 3 times that bracket. So in algebra, we could treat x plus y bracket just like a single polynomial as a. All right. So in this case, if in first question, first example, a is the HCF, in this case, x plus y means the bracket would be our what? HCF as well. Okay. So if we got the HCF, can we do the factorization? Of course we can, right? So just like what we have done, HCF is the common factor. Now you take it out, you got 2 plus 3, 2 plus 3, 5, okay? Right, so basically you got this one, okay? So you see, we can do similar things using similar concepts. So that's what we call the extension of the concept of common factor. Okay, normally the common factor would be just like one single polynomial, but from now on, possibly you need to treat sometimes the bracket with the same content as the common factor as well, right? Okay, for the second one, minus 6a squared b minus 3c squared. Okay, let me rewrite this one again into, okay, the expander, prime factor form. All right. Okay. So when you compare these two, of course, you got only 3 as the common factor. You got another b as common factor. Okay. There's no a in the second term, no c in the first term, no 2 in the second term. Okay, so HCF is 3b. Okay, so to do factorization, what you need to do is to take out that 3b. Okay, but as I have said, we really prefer, if the leading term is negative, we really prefer to change that into negative 3b. Okay, if you divide the negative 3b, what do you get? You got 2a, positive 2a. All right, and for this, 2a squared. Okay, and for the second term, it becomes plus c squared. Okay, plus c squared. Okay, so because HCF now you make it negative, and both terms are negative. When you divide a negative term, becomes positive, right? Okay, so can you see that the last one, the fourth one, they are very similar in terms of the setting of the third one. Can you take some time to try to do it by yourself? Okay, to try to think about what's HCF this time. Okay, try to think about the question in the relation between 1 and 2, and try to work out a relation between 3 and 4, and try to apply the concept that sometimes a bracket of a binomial, such as x plus y, could be a common factor. Okay? Take some time to think about this. Okay, so what's your answer? Okay, check the answer first. Do you get it correct? If you get it correct, well, that's awesome. All right. Okay, if there's something wrong, then you need to listen very carefully. All right. So let's see. HCF should be 3 bracket 2x minus y. Okay, 3 is understandable. How about y? That's bracket 2x minus y is also a common factor. Okay, can you see that that's 2x minus y is just equivalent to that b in question 3. So everything else is the same, except that we replace that b by bracket 2x minus y. So that's 2x minus y. It just function in the same way as that b. Okay, so everything b does, that's 2x minus y. Do the same thing. You see that? Okay, so once you could see that bracket 2x minus y as you see b, you know how to do it. That's the key. Alright, try to get used to it. Try to get that into your head. Okay, good. Let's do a couple more examples. For this one, okay, factorize each of the following. In both of these expressions can be seen that HCF as a binomial factor. Okay, so for this one, let's see what's our common factor. Okay, so highest common factor, of course, would be bracket x plus y. Okay, so if we can see that highest common factor of two terms, okay, 5, there's no common factor in 5, there's no common factor in b, but for the brackets x plus y, they are the highest common factor. Okay, so the factorization will turn out like this. Okay, let me further amplify this. Okay, so the factorization will be like this. I'm going to take that xy out as a bracket, and then I must leave something behind, right? So it must be after 5 bracket x plus y divided by bracket x plus y, what happens? It becomes 5. After second term is divided by x plus y, what happens? 6b. That's it. Alright, okay. Okay, for b, what's HCF? Okay, should be the same. Okay, 2b, no. Okay, so here's a b. How about, okay, you might think, okay, here's a b. How about here's a b? Okay, they're not the same. Okay, because the first b is as a factor, but the 3b, the b in the 3b is part of the binomial in a bracket, so it's not a factor, it's just a term in the brackets, right? Okay, so the HCF, the only HCF is a minus 3b. Alright, then you need to think about how could we do this. Okay, oh, sorry, I lost it. Oh, where is it now? Can't see it. Okay, okay, so it's right here. Okay, so because HCF a minus 3b, just take that a minus 3b out, and for the first term is 2b. For the second term, if a minus 3b divided by a minus 3b, what do you get? The same thing divided by itself. Okay, 1, right? And here is minus, so you keep the minus. Alright, okay? So that will be our second example. Alright, okay? Okay, so I'm going to give you some time to do both A and B, and let's track the answer, right? Okay. Okay, so see if you got the correct answer. Okay, so this 2 are quite similar to the previous 2 questions, so that shouldn't be any problem. Okay, for both, that's binomial factor are common factors, are highest common factors, right? Okay, so that should be no problem. Okay, if you still got something wrong, just make sure you track every step. You might go back to watch our previous working as well. How to get the HCF? Okay, you must get it right now. Okay, otherwise it would be very difficult to get it right after that. All right. Okay, so I might give you some time to work on C and D. All right. Okay, so let's track C first. Okay, for C, you need to add a bracket for that a minus 3 to make it looks like 2 binomial common factors, right? So without that bracket, you could still see the common factor, but it will be much better in terms of presentation. That you treat that a minus 3 as 1 unit, okay? So another thing is when you take out that a minus 3 as a highest common factor, what left behind, the first term will be no problem, it should be a, alright? But for the second term is the same thing. So a minus 3 divided by a minus 3 equals 1, not 0. Okay, so if you got 0 or nothing there, it's wrong. Okay, it should be 1. Okay, for D, it's a bit more complicated. You can't just say, okay, again, y plus 3 is HCF. It's not the case. Why? Because you see that 16 and 24, and also the xy in front of the bracket, so that plenty more plenty more other common factors. So you need to find the common highest common factor step by step. Okay, 2 as a common factor, and is that x? No. Is that y? Yep, that's y outside here. Okay, and of course, y plus 3 should be treated as 1 common factor right now. Okay. Okay, then please write the HCF. Okay, 2, no. You need to track the power, okay? So 2 is a common factor, but we need to take the lowest power. So lowest power, 4 and 3, which one is lower? 3. Y and bracket y plus 3. Okay, again, the y in the bracket have very different meaning of the y as a factor. Okay, so that will give you 8y plus 3, right? Okay, so let's do the factorization. You need to take that 8y. Okay, I need to copy the question here. Sorry. Okay, so when we do the factorization, you need to take that 8y plus 3 outside. Okay, then what happened? Okay, inside the bracket, you need to divide that HCF by the first term. 16 divided by 8, 2. xy divided by y, so y plus 3 divided by y plus 3, that's 1, right? Okay, minus 24 divided by 8, that's 3, okay? And y divided by y is 1, okay? Y plus 3 divided by y plus 3 is 1, okay? So that would be the answer, okay? Okay, so for D, eventually it becomes more difficult, right? Because you need to mix up with the previous concept of taking out common factor with higher power and also with binomial common factor as well. Alright, okay. So let's do the last type of today's video, which is about the power of binomial, of common binomial. Okay, so see here, there's a power, right? It's 2, here's 2. Okay, so how could we deal with this? It's not that difficult. If I change the question a little bit, let's say if the question is like a squared plus 3a, would that be difficult for you? Of course not. I think for most of you, just take you a few seconds to realize that would be the answer, right? And how about for this one? If I treat this one as 6b minus b squared, then what happens? Okay, just this one will be the answer. So can you see the resemblance or the equivalence between the two I just wrote down and the two questions? Or they are or I do just to change that bracket binomial into a single letter, then it appears so familiar to you guys, doesn't it? All right, okay, so but in the examination you need to know how to do this without thinking about A or B. All right, so but we're going to use the same technique. All right, so in this case, in the first case, you got m plus 5 squared, m plus 5. Then think about the HCF. The HCF will be the common factor. So the only common factor here is this one and this one. Okay, but of course, one is squared, the other is just power 1. Okay, so highest common factor will be m plus 5. That's it. Okay, so when we do it, you would like to just m plus 5 as common factor. Okay, and what happens inside the bracket? So m plus 5 squared divided by m plus 5 just becomes another m plus 5 plus 3, right? Does it look right to you? Yes, but it would be better if we change, because if there are two pair, more than one pair of brackets, then you need to change the outer bracket into a square bracket, right? Okay, so then, okay, you might just remove the first bracket like this. You still need to do a bit of simplification, I suppose. Okay, so that would be the first one. Okay, so I'm going to give you some time to think about the second one. Also, okay, so let's see part B. All right. Okay, so here's the answer. All right. It's pretty much the same as A, but the only thing you need to be a bit more careful is about the minus sign here. Okay. So since there's a minus sign, there's a bracket. After you remove the bracket, you need to change that minus, which was within the bracket, becomes plus. That's it. All right. And then you need to simplify all the terms. You got the answer, right? Okay. So here's our last example, right? Okay. So let's see. Here's the practice 2. Okay, for your reference. Okay, so you need to do as many as you can. I suppose you need to do at least one column of each question to make sure you really understand how to do it. If you got any problem, please go to the collaboration area. There's a question and answer time. I'm going to station there to help you. All right, and if you finish your homework, please send your photos to the homework folder in the OneNote. Right, here are the answers. All right, okay, let's see you next time. Right, okay, bye bye.